Hello, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, and in this segment I'll be going over something that is somewhat of a controversial topic which many people don't talk about, and that is commercial sex work. This is not only a serious public health problem. The strategy as to how to understand this public health problem and how to best take action in order to not protect the individuals that are within this occupation and all those surrounding it. So let me go ahead and get started here. This article is about 6 years old, and the name is Commercial Sex. It's time for public health to admit it's complicated. So the idea is that should commercial sex work be legalized? There's a lot of danger that surrounds this occupation. A lot of individuals are targeted here, and so there's some danger to keeping it criminalized. However, on the other hand, if you do decriminalize, then there's minuses there, in that there may be some argue that there may be actually an encouragement and increase in this. So let me try to show you both sides, and you can be the judge of which side you stand on. So a lot of the international public health agencies, such as the World Health Organization, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, UNAIDS, and the Global Commission on HIV and the Law, they all agree on one thing, and that is to decriminalize commercial sex work, and this is the right choice in every nation in the world. This is what the research in multiple countries, diverse countries, Kenya, New Zealand, South Africa, and Canada suggest. And this may also reduce HIV, prevent violence, and decrease stigma. Even though there is much agreement, there's actually disagreement in that decriminalization can contribute to the reduction of HIV and STI transmission, human trafficking, and other forms of exploitation and violence. The issue remains complex in practice. The more appropriate official public health stance is that it's complicated. There's been multiple actually shifts in the public health opinion of decriminalizing and criminalizing. Initially, commercial sex was criminalized, and there was this social evil ordinance that was passed in order to regulate the sex trade. And the New Orleans red light district of Storyville actually was closed by public health officials due to concerns for the local military personnel. There was a lot more individuals that were talking on decriminalizing sex work in terms of physicians, feminists, and Christians. So there was something known as the Mann Act in 1910. This was known as the White Slave Act. And this barred the movement of women across state borders for immoral activities. And many champions of the legislation saw it as a tool for institutionalizing morality. And so there's a lot that global events were shifting the way the sex trade was viewed and regulated. So the Third Reich during World War II at least had 34,000 adolescents that were involved in sex work. In fact, in Japan, the Japanese government coerced or forced up to 200,000 women into commercial sex for its military. United Nations Convention specified that member nations should criminalize brothels. Of course, the European public health community responded unhappily to the UN Convention. Until that time, infectious disease experts had been able to compel prostitutes to undergo serologic testing for syphilis because the government kept registries of prostitutes and regulated brothels. Public health experts actually argued the legalization and regulation of commercial sex work would protect lives. However, there was a tension that developed between public health experts and anti-prostitution advocates, intensified during the era of AIDS and HIV. Public health activists argued in favor of legalizing and regulating commercial sex, citing that people trading sex could negotiate condom use with customers more successfully in places they did not fear law enforcement. So that one argument is that in favor of legalizing is that they can negotiate protection against certain STIs. Using the human rights framework, people deserve the freedom to choose to trade sex. Others argued, of course, that there is no such thing as choosing trade sex because of the fact that the social and economic conditions make it virtually impossible for most people to negotiate the sale of commercial sex. In an environment free of coercion that legitimized the selling and buying of women's bodies for sex would undermine women's power in society. Also, legalization facilitated or may facilitate more sexual exploitation of minors, while criminalization suppressed the legal market. And I think this is the most compelling argument against decriminalization of selling sex. So a lot of times criminalization means increased violence, stigma, and HIV transmission. But the experiences, of course, are varied depending on some of the survivors of trafficking argue that a lack of restrictions on commercial sex facilitates exploitation and endangers vulnerable individuals. So the verdict is out. You've heard many arguments for decriminalization and some arguments against decriminalization, especially protecting vulnerable youth. And the choice and agency to participate in commercial sex and to be a part of the system is and the voluntary nature of it is arguable, since choice and agency are a privilege that only individuals in higher echelons of society can be a part of. So this has given you some insight on some of the arguments that are around for and against commercial sex work and decriminalization of the act. Thank you for listening.